With reports and rumors ramping up about the Nintendo Switch 2 or Switch successor just about every week, I thought it would be a fun exercise to discuss the top 10 features I'd like to see included in this next piece of hardware from Nintendo. And as I get through the list, go ahead and share what you want to see below as well. But before we dive in, what's going on, everyone? It is me, Mark. This is Joyful's Arcade. As always, a place where we celebrate all games and their awesome ability to bring people together. So whether you're a Nintendo fan or an Xbox or PlayStation gamer or a PC gamer, this is a place for you. And if you like the content, please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you don't like the content and you think I'm absolute trash, let me know your thoughts below. Anyways, always looking for feedback. Okay, at number 10, it's a no-brainer for me. The Switch successor needs themes. I can't tell you how many times I waited for news that a feature that was previously included on past Nintendo hardware and just about every other handheld and non-handheld device since would be making its way into Nintendo Switch, but it never did. And it just blows my mind. It seems like an easy layup for Nintendo, especially considering the customization they're putting into gamer profile icons on the hardware today. But alas, nothing. I don't get it, but I really hope Nintendo figures things out for the next piece of hardware in their lineup. We need themes. Themes would be wonderful. I switch back and forth between the black and white theme every 6 months or so, but it's not enough. I want something more special. Okay, this next one, also a no-brainer, but I have to say it because, well, you know Nintendo. They can always come out of left field with a curveball no one saw coming. But this feature, keep it as a hybrid/home console system. Historically, Nintendo has had a ton of success by segmenting their markets between the home and handheld consoles. But with consolidation of the two, thanks to the Switch, they've managed to create an entirely new way to enjoy games everywhere. I don't think Nintendo would decide to ditch the hybrid solution, at least not right now, but you never know what tricks they may have up their sleeve, and I'm hoping for, at least here in the near future, they're not changing anything on us too much. Alright, while this next one isn't necessarily a feature, it's definitely something needed, and that's awesome launch titles. Every new system needs to have stellar launch titles to attract people to buy the hardware, and software is one of the main reasons customers go out for that new hardware. Nintendo has capitalized off of this many times in the past. Most importantly, think about Breath of the Wild with the launch of the Switch, which, while it was a cross-gen game, we all know no one bought the Wii U. In fact, former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé stated in a podcast back in 2022 with Game Industry Biz, when discussing the state of the Switch and what's ahead, that, quote, thinking on what's next and what the future holds, it's quite a heavy lift to be done. I believe that, first and foremost, you need to be thinking about the content and what's going to be the content pipeline to keep players engaged. I do think you have to look at history and what are some of the historical tactics that have worked to maintain a particular generation, and that includes everything from mid-cycle upgrades to looking at how you think about pricing and value. There are a number of different tactics you can play, but fundamentally, the content pipeline needs to be there, end quote. Ultimately, Reggie is saying when you roll out new hardware or when you want to maintain any piece of hardware, you need to have that attraction that comes in the form of first party or even second or third party exclusive content for that system. And that is without a doubt something the Switch successor is going to need at launch to make people want to switch over to this next release. Okay, at number 7, this next one is rather an obvious one now, and that's 4K gaming. Now, while a lot of people complain that the original Switch wasn't supporting 4K, I think Nintendo was right not to prioritize such an element within their strategy back in 17, because realistically, not everyone even had a 4K TV. And while Sony and Microsoft piped up those features and marched down those paths, realistically, again, they're narrowing their market in terms of who that messaging is going to appeal to. In fact, based on data from the website Statista, only 31% of US households had a 4K TV back in 2019. And as of March 2021, only 44% had one. That number is probably breaking the 50% mark or more at this point, and because of that, it's definitely more of a mainstream option Nintendo needs to think about. And that's why I think Nintendo is smart for how they're approaching it. Thanks to DLSS tech, which is rumored to be in the next NVIDIA system on a chip included on this Switch 2, Nintendo can use extremely optimized hardware to run games natively at, let's say, 1080p, but have the DLSS upscale it to 4K and still get that high frame rate performance out of the game as well. I think it's a given that we're going to see 4K at this point. And while Sony and Microsoft are now touting touting that, AK, who the heck wants that or has a TV with that ability? Yes, it makes sense for them to march down again such a linear path, but Nintendo is all about that lateral thinking. They wait until technology is more common and affordable and disrupt and innovate in ways you're not expecting. And number 6, this next feature is one I think that the original Switch has tackled quite successfully, but I think the success will only continue to improve upon, and that's third-party support. Thanks to the ease of playing Unity or Unreal games on the NVIDIA architecture of the Switch, we saw a smorgasbord of ports to come to the console, even unfathomable ports like Doom Eternal or The Witcher 3. And while from raw power standards, the next Nintendo hardware will not be as powerful as a PlayStation 5 or a Series X, realistically, it doesn't have to be. Going back to what I just mentioned about DLSS, and from what I've seen that technology do for PC games, my estimation would be that the Switch 2 should be able to play any game that could also be played on a mid-end PC or lower. Again, natively, it won't be running the game at 4K, but it doesn't have to. I expect everything from the current releases of Madden to Cyberpunk to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and games like Baldur's Gate 3 all to be on the next-gen hardware, and again, I think we'll see even better support throughout the lifecycle of this next console as well. Number 5, this next one is probably more of a pipe dream, but we've seen current consoles do it, and I'd love to see it rolled out on the Switch 2 as well, and that's the ability for auto enhancement, or in other terms, for the Nintendo Switch 2 to play older Switch games, but have the ability to automatically boost the fidelity, resolution, frame rate, and even apply auto HDR. There's a part of me that suspects this could be rolled out, especially considering that the Switch 2, which was rumored to have been shown off at Gamescom to developers and publishers, was running a souped-up version of Breath of the Wild. Now, was that just a customized demo for the showcase, or were they potentially showing how auto enhancement of last-gen games would potentially work? In this specific case at Gamescom, I'm going to say it was probably a demo. But since this is a technology we've already seen rolled out on consoles like the Series X in 2020, there's definitely the potential for us to see it on the Switch successor as well. At number 4, everyone is going to agree with this one, and that's better, simple online infrastructure. Now, I could see this personally going two ways. One, Nintendo has finally established a foundational online infrastructure and account system with the Switch. They ditched the iterative attempts we saw on the Wii and Wii U and the 3DS for something more standardized and functional. And props to Nintendo for doing that, because unlike a Microsoft, for example, Nintendo doesn't have a core competency in networking and technologies infrastructure. Nintendo is a toy company first and foremost, and they had to learn how to get better in this area. So because they finally have this online platform, I could see them rolling out continuous improvements to it, such as voice chat, such as standardized user-friend IDs, voice parties, and so much more. But on the other hand, it's Nintendo, and while they're showing they are more willing than in recent years to adopt these types of online technologies, they probably internally don't have it as a high priority, so I could see none of it happening as well. But hey, as long as we get the online virtual consoles carried over to the next system and they continue to add features and games to it, I'll be pretty satisfied. But let me know what you think. Okay, my third item is something some of you may not care about as much, but for any man with big old bare hands like me, this one will probably resonate, and that's better ergonomics and form factor. To be honest, this isn't something I thought a lot about when the Switch first came out. Nintendo does have to achieve a middle ground where it could be a console enjoyed both by kids and adults alike, but after playing the Steam Deck for a year and messing around with other third-party grip accessories for the Switch, I can easily see how my playtime longevity with the console, specifically in handheld mode, is limited. Console mode, I think the Pro controllers are freaking great, but for all that is good and beautiful, please make it so I can hold my Switch 2 in handheld mode for longer than 30 minutes without my hands starting to cramp up and go numb. Okay, now my number 2 request is an absolute pipe dream. I would love it, as would 99.9% of other gamers, and I'm putting it this high because of such a desire. But I will tell you now, I don't see it happening, and that is trophies or achievements. Imagine, if you will, a world in which your relentless playthrough of that one Mario game or Zelda game could come with a certified achievement list showing you and everyone else in your very short friend list that yes, you did this. You know, personally, I don't know what it is about this one because I'm not a trophy hunter or anything like that, but there's just something I find so satisfying anytime I get that little click or ping and that notification flashes up on my screen that it's just I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that the game is saying, hey, good job, you're making progress, I'm proud of you, son. Or maybe it's because I never won anything as a kid and I finally feel like I'm worth something. Either way, I would love if we had this come to the Switch successor. I mean, gosh, imagine if you could go back through all of those classic Nintendo games that are on the online systems and get trophies there as well. But as I said, it is a pipe dream, and I think a pipe pipe dream, it will remain. Okay, so number one is number one because I think it's not only a critical feature from my own preference, but I also think it's a critical feature for the success of the Switch successor, and that's backwards compatibility. Obviously, new exclusive content for the next-gen hardware will be a critical motivator to pick up the Switch successor, but the original Switch, as of March 2023, has sold over 1 billion units of software, meaning 1 billion plus games, both in physical and digital forms, are currently out there for that console, making it the most successful Nintendo console ever from that perspective. And if there's one thing we learned over the last few generations that is a great motivator for brand or hardware loyalty, it's having the ability to bring your pre-existing library, that's both digital and or physical, to the next system. Even Phil Spencer harkened on this past year in an interview with Kinda Funny Games when he said, quote, "We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games." End quote. Saying this because the PlayStation 4 had been a place where digital libraries were established and naturally would be a major incentive for folks to pick up a PS5 over a Series X. Now, that specific reason, the PlayStation 5 or Xbox isn't the most critical point for backwards compatibility, but for Nintendo, it's really about the sheer volume of games sold. They've established that library, and if there's ever a way to nudge and incentivize Nintendo players to pick up the next hardware, besides exclusive games, besides new features and so on, it's saying to them, hey, bring all those games with you. And as I stated above, I would love for those older games to get a little bit of a snazzy makeover as well when you run it on the new system. Now, is this possible? I think out of all my top requests here, this one is very feasible. It's already been rumored to be included, and while it's not 100% confirmed and really nothing is confirmed about this, even if it's a hybrid or portable system, there's a few ways Nintendo could go about doing backwards compatibility. One being like past attempts. They include the original NVIDIA chip from the Switch on this new piece of hardware, or the new NVIDIA chip that's built into this new piece of hardware perhaps is able to run these legacy games in a new and improved way. Either way, if this system doesn't have backwards compatibility, I think it will be a huge missed opportunity for Nintendo. So there you have it. There are my top 10 features that I think need to be on this Nintendo Switch console or this Nintendo Switch successor or Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called. I don't know what it's going to be called. It might not even be a portable hybrid system. We don't know. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Is there any feature you think I'm missing? What's your most favorite feature I included that you want to see as well? Let me know your thoughts below. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.